Let's do it. Let's do it. Ready?
Yes, sir.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode, another edition of Straight from the Pastor's Desk podcast. I got the man of the hour once again, Pastor Jordan Bartlett, pastor here at Abundant Faith Church, the church where faith works. Man, how you feeling? How you feeling after today's message, man?
Man, today's message, man, I was like super excited about being able to deliver it, man. When you preparing a message, the one thing you hope for is that it's relevant. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I was super excited because I know that all of us can relate to, at some point in our lives, like wanting to give up and just tap out.
Yeah.
And no matter how strong an individual is, there's some stuff that can knock the wind out of you.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I was excited about it. My prayer now is just that, that everybody else that heard it is as excited about it as I was, and that it was as helpful to them as it was for me. So
absolutely. So before we jump into our first segment or the what we're going to talk about today, I want to lay this out first, right? Because we always talk about the sermons, and we always talk about how well it, all those different things.
Yeah.
But one thing we don't do in the beginning, which is my bad, I forget to plug it in the beginning where you can actually go listen to these sermons. So we are exclusively on Spotify. You can listen to all sermons. You can play those back on Spotify. You can listen to it at your desk. You can listen to it while you're working out. You can listen to it while the kids making all these noise. Put the headphones in and just zone out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Also, we're on Facebook, right? Abundant Faith Church, Abundant Faith Christian Church, right? Sure. And also on YouTube, and you'll probably be viewing this on YouTube. So let's jump right into our first segment, man. I'm excited to talk about this Faith Talk segment, right? For those of you who don't know, our Faith Talk segment is just where we talk about, it's kind of our intro into the podcast, right? It's kind of like the layup or the alley-oop into the podcast, right?
Right.
Today you talked about the cure for quitting. And I'm going to be honest with you. This message really, for me, you know what I'm saying? Just for me, for where I'm at in my life, for being in every area, right? From a husband to a business owner to all these different things, right? That message really spoke to me. Would you say that at some point in all of our lives, that there's a point where we have to transition from that loser's mentality to a winner's mentality?
No.
Okay. Let's dive into that.
I mean, you don't ever have to make the transition if you never plan on winning.
Okay. So the angle that I was going at is, let me tell you this because in my life personally, right? Now, I would say that just given the circumstances I grew up in, I was already like a mentally tough person through that, right? But I wasn't the type of person that would challenge myself if I felt like it didn't matter.
But you did have at least some desire to win.
Yeah, but not at the things. Okay, let's put it like this. In school,
okay,
if there was a mark to reach, hey, all you got to do is get a D in this class.
That's all you're gonna do, right?
All I need is that D, or all I need is that C, right? So to me, that's a loser's mentality, and I think the only thing that really kind of shifted my mindset from that was when I went to the Army.
Okay.
Because I was in a situation where I could not quit. Right. So that kind of shifted my mindset. So that's why I asked that question, because I don't believe that we're necessarily just born with a winner's mentality. I think that kind of is developed through our stages in life.
Yeah. And so that's my point. That's actually where I was going, is that the reality is that some people are okay with losing.
Right.
Some people are okay with not winning. And at that, like, there is no point where they change their mentality. You only get to a point where your mentality has to be changed once you get to a point where your desire to win is greater than your desire for complacency.
Cool. But okay. I got it. You know, I love to challenge.
Okay,
right?
come on.
So, but what if my life is good the way it is, though? You know what I'm saying? Because that.
So realize I said your desire to win has to be greater than your complacency.
Right.
You can be in a good place and be very complacent. As a matter of fact, most of us get complacent because we've made it to a good.
Absolutely.
Once we get to a place that's better than where we were, that's when we get complacent, right? So it can be good and you still get lazy.
Right.
It can be good and you still get, you still get complacent. But then you have to challenge yourself on that level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you being in a good or a bad place your placement is not the cure for complacency.
Right.
Your mentality is the cure for complacency.
Okay. Now we cooking. Because I was going to say, from the outside appearance, when you're in that stage of maybe complacency at whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the outside, it's good. Like, I got this, I got that, I'm good to go. Like, I'm not where I was. Depending on who you hanging around, you may even be the best of the average of who you hang around, right? But it's the unseen that really messes with you. So let me give you an example, right? In my marriage may, from the outside, may be going good, even from the outside of my lens, right? But I don't know.
Surface level.
Right. But if I'm not always striving to be a better husband, somewhere along the lines, my wife is not going to be okay with how things are.
Right.
So from the outside, it's like, sweet. But from the inside, she can be like, okay, it's not really, you know what I'm saying? We're not really moving that mark.
Right. So
how do we get out of that mindset of complacent? Because sometimes when you're complacent, you don't realize that you're complacent.
So I think that I wouldn't necessarily say they're synonymous.
Okay.
But I think that complacency and quitting are very similar. Because on either side, you're not progressing.
You're not. Absolutely.
Right. So to answer that question, I would say go back and listen to the message.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're serious, man. It's such an important message, man, because like there is a level in life, I believe, that you can kind of just coast through, and it's not like you're not doing nothing extraordinary, but you're not necessarily failing. You could be checking the boxes.
Let's go back to your point about a marriage. Once you get complacent and you just start going through the motions, you've quit.
Yeah.
Once it's no longer a priority of yours to make sure that your spouse is, in the best position possible, feeling appreciated and blah, blah, blah. All of the things that come along with having, the quote unquote good marriage. Once you stop, even if you continue with what you've been doing, once you stop, you've quit.
Absolutely.
So the complacency, like I said, the complacency and the quitting are almost one and the same.
Man, I remember when I was in boot camp, right? And they throw these weird things at you, like things that you just don't even think that matters, like the way you make up your bed. If the corner isn't crisp, you know what I'm saying? But they would always say, attention to detail. Complacency kills.
For sure.
Right? Like they would give us so many examples of times where in war or whatever, where complacency literally got people killed. But in life, or like, 'cause we're not on the battlefield, in life, complacency can kill your blessings. Would you agree with that? Complacency can kill, kind of like what we said about the inside out, like it can kill your marriage from the inside out. Maybe your spouse isn't saying anything about it, but that you're not necessarily giving your all or progressing throughout your marriage. And I believe what you said today was kind of the cure for all of that. You know what I'm saying? So let's jump into the first point you made. Stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. Stay in your lane. Can you break that down on why it's important to stay in your lane, and how is that the cure for quitting?
So I want to try to put this in a way that's not like just repeating.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to dissect this. That's what we do on this podcast. We're going to dissect this thing.
Yeah, so I wanna try to, let me think about this. I wanna try to reword it. We just need to be careful. I'll put it like this, very simply. We just need to be careful because sometimes the things that make us want to quit weren't assigned to us anyway.
Okay.
So we put ourselves in certain positions and we create certain pressures. We create the unrealistic expectations. We create, a particular atmosphere, and those are, a lot of times in doing, that's when you find yourself trick or treat. All right. What's going on?
Look, we gonna get it right. We ain't gonna quit. Look, this is the cure. This right here. Look, you see past it.
All right, it's all right. Okay, so sometimes we put ourselves in the get it together. We're gonna get it together. Okay. So sometimes we put ourselves in the positions that make us want to quit. So staying in your lane is just a way of ensuring that with everything else going on, that, and you hear me use this term a lot, that I'm not aiding in my own destruction.
Right. Yeah.
With everything else going on, that I'm not creating my own problems.
Right.
Okay. So staying in your lane is if I'm focusing on my task, my goal, or my role, right? Because sometimes it's not your goal or your task, but sometimes you play a role in someone else's, right? So if I'm focusing on my role and doing my role, then I won't have some of the pressures. If you put it in sports terms, there's certain pressures that come along with being a quarterback.
Right.
But if my goal is to catch the ball, or if my job is to catch the ball, then I don't have the pressure of making sure the ball is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure I catch it when it gets there.
Absolutely.
But if I'm a receiver and I'm stepping out of my lane,
right,
then I can't focus on catching the ball, which is my actual job, because I'm focused on how it's going to get there, which is not my job.
Absolutely.
So staying in your lane is a means by which you limit the circumstances that cause you to want to quit.
Okay. I agree with that, right? But I also believe, okay, is there another side of that coin where we're focused, we're staying in our lanes, but how do we know the difference between I'm staying in my lane and the mindset of that's not my job? You see what I'm saying? Because like, let's put it in terms here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If my lane is to do this one thing for the church, right? And I'm focusing on that, but I see other things happening, I can easily say, well, I'm just here to do this, I'm just here to do that, I'm not here to do this. And I think this kind of goes back to our complacency thing, right? How do we know the difference between those two things? Because I think there is like a balance there, right? While I'm in my lane, I'm not trying to be the quarterback, but if I see something off, maybe I need to, like, I don't, how will we approach that?
So as long as you doing, let me say it this way, as long as your extras don't impose on someone else's
lane,
base.
Okay.
Right. So for example, we just used the quarterback and receiver. Now, once the ball is thrown, the quarterback has done his job.
Right.
Once the ball is caught, the receiver has done his job.
Right.
But now it becomes everybody on the field's job to block for the receiver,
so he can get that touchdown,
so we can all score.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as your extra doesn't It may not be your job to block.
Right.
But if he's running on your side of the field, you not blocking affects our progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So and in addition to that, staying in my lane and that's not my job, the difference between the two is often a mentality.
Absolutely.
It takes a certain mentality to be able to say, you know what, I don't want to overstep. So even though I don't mind doing this, that's not my assignment.
Right.
Versus the mentality of saying, I mean, I'm doing enough, somebody else can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different type of mentality.
And I just thought it was important to hit that side of it, because there can come a time where we're like,
Stand in your lane doesn't mean you only do one thing.
okay,
When you run a race, you run a race in your lane, but both arms are moving.
yep,
Both legs are moving.
yep,
Your breathing has to be right. You know what I mean? Like, there's multiple things happening in this one lane.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
So stand in your lane.
I'm not going to do the extra. You see what I'm saying? Or I'm not going to help in this area or pick up in this area, because, and I think that can become a problem in itself.
Watch this. If you the text was talking about it in terms.
Right.
Many runners run different races.
Okay.
So oftentimes stay in your lane and still run multiple. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So to your point, that it's a mentality, because it goes from the excuse mentality of not wanting to put in.
become that where you're so used to just doing these things that you don't even notice the other things. And I think that's a part of, like you said, still have a main focus. Y'all don't get to see the back, the back stuff, but I know for a fact there's probably times where you're just drained, and you may feel like quitting, but since you're not so one-sided, you don't got the blinder so tight that you can't see those other things
For sure.
and be able to
For sure.
lead and delegate.
And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the cure for fatigue, right? And sometimes you can you can put too much on yourself.
Absolutely.
And from a leadership standpoint, I won't stay on this too long, but from a leadership
We're staying in our lane. We got that. We're not going to be so focused that we don't see the other things.
right.
Now we must, at the same time, follow Jesus' lead.
So in a real sense, if you're following Jesus completely, you'll stay in your lane, because Jesus is not going to lead you out of your lane.
Absolutely.
So in a real sense, there's that aspect.
Okay.
Then there's also, like we talked about in the message, is that when you follow Jesus, you're following an example that works.
Yep.
Right? You're following an example that works, and you're following the instructions of someone who can't lose.
Absolutely.
So, if you stay in your lane and stay focused on him, you have to reach the goal, because he can't lose. So if your focus is on him, and you reach him, then you've won, whatever that looks like in your own life.
Absolutely. So when you said that, in my mind, instantly I thought of like Jesus as the ultimate coach, right? Like all you got to do is run the play. If you just run the play, focus on what God told you to do, and there will be distractions. We talk about this often. There will be distractions, right? There's, in my journey personally, right? Just within this last year, I know for a fact certain things that God told me to do. But then you might hear some outside like, bro, you just want to, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to quit. Like, are you sure that, because your friends or your family might see you in, I don't want to say pain, like you're in literal pain. But,
right.
You know what I mean? They may see you stressed out.
Space, yeah.
They may see, Pastor, you should, like, I mean, like, there's a couple times where you may be tired, and it's like, I could be that person and be like, Pastor, you sure you still want to, you still want to move forward with this? You sure you don't want to just discard all this and just do the, like there's times where those distractions can come in, but it's very important to always remember what the instructions were, what the play was. How do you, personally, how do you stay focused on those things when I'm talking about, like when everything's going wrong, when you can't see, like how do you stay focused personally?
So, okay. So we talked, the point was to focus on Jesus, and you brought up a good point that Jesus is the ultimate coach.
Right.
Here's the irony in that. Jesus is the ultimate coach, but he's also the ultimate trainer. He's also the ultimate teammate.
Yes, sir.
He's also, and get this, he's also the trophy.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So everywhere you turn, he plays a significant role. Absolutely. So if he's the goal, if he's the trophy, if he's what I win at the end, and I'm focused on the finish line, but I don't know how to get there, he's also my coach to get me to him. And if I don't have what it takes, he's also my trainer to get me to him.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it sounds cliche and corny, but ultimately the answer to everything is Jesus.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when I feel like I don't have anything left, let me be real. When I don't have anything left, there's times where I don't. Like when I don't have anything left,
Yeah.
I have to be realistic and transparent enough with my God to say I don't have anything left.
Right.
And so in order for me to accomplish what you've given me to accomplish, I need you.
Right. So, and we talked about this before, running themes, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this podcast. But do you feel like sometimes God will wait for that moment for you to say
absolutely.
it? Because God knows, like, you over there sweating, you
Mm-hmm.
you hung up. You know how you eat when you
Yeah.
when you get tired and you just start
Hunched
laying
over,
down,
yeah.
you breathe, you know what I'm saying? Like God knows, and He's just like, hey, just come talk to the coach. Just
Yeah.
come, you know. And I think that moment of vulnerability is what actually gives once again back to the endurance, gives us the endurance again.
And see, people have often asked me, why would God do that? Well, if he see you struggling, why he just wouldn't?
That's
well,
a huge question.
That's a huge question, and it's a real question. Like
Right.
it's a legitimate question. The answer is because God can't fully function in a space occupied by pride.
Yeah, because that is ego. That ego can
It's ego.
Yeah,
it's ego. So God will wait until. Not only will he wait until our energy runs out,
yeah,
but he'll wait till our pride runs out.
Ooh. Okay.
Because it's at the point that our pride runs out that he can really do what he needs to do.
See, that right there is so important, because our ego is really like a set up defense mechanism within us, right? It's like it kept, if we're talking about just the human race in general, like it kind of kept us alive in certain moments in time, right? All the way till now, right? But I think there comes a time where we got to know when that ego is playing or is like a roadblock, right? How do you realize that? Like, how do you say, okay, this right here is my ego? Like it may, because it does. Like when we think of ego, I think we think of something like in the bad terms, not realizing that your ego is literally something that you need to survive, right? How do we tell the difference when it's hindering us or it's not, or just keeping us stagnant in ways?
So,
because you could still be, the reason why I'm asking, because you could still be praying, you could still be like in your word, you could still be attending church, doing all the right things, and not realize that your ego has gotten you to a place where you're not even asking God. You didn't went 90 days with the instructions God gave you. You never went back to the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? You never called a timeout.
So this is the best answer I could really give you. God has a way of sort of bringing you back to reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got a way of reminding you that you're getting beside yourself.
Yeah. For real.
Now how you respond to that is up to you, but God will always bring you back and remind you that
all this is me.
Yeah.
and that's so real. We keep it transparent on this podcast, but for me, because I am a type of person that likes to, take control of things and just, run with that ball. I'm like the running back, grab that ball. I'm just running. I think for me, it's always when things just boom, out the blue, something out the blue happens, or things just slow down completely. Then I'm like, all right, God, I hear you. You know what I'm saying? I hear you. Like, I've been running hard. I've been doing what I need to do. And sometimes it's just like, all right, like just being honest. Like that's real for me. Like I think in the last couple years, I've learned to
reel it in
and realize, but it's still just a part of who I am as far as I like to just lead, take control, and go. And then, like I said, sometimes I got to call that timeout before God calls the timeout, right? Before God says, all right, you got to sit your butt down on the sideline. I think I've learned to do that, and I wish I could give like some step to that, but I think it's like what you said. It's just being in tune with
absolutely, because
God
you gotta understand. Peyton Manning was known for literally being a coach on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He was known for being able to call plays. He was known for being able to call audibles and things like that. But even with that, he could always hear the coach in his ear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he never got so far in that he couldn't at least hear the voice of the coach.
Absolutely.
And he was one of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So whether you like him or not, that's the reality. Right. So we can be as good as we want to be, but we got to understand that God gave us the skill.
Right.
We can, he gave us the ability. He gave us the gifts. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, like I said, he's the trainer and the coach.
Right.
So if we really want to maximize these gifts and skills, then we got to go back to him anyway.
Absolutely.
So the key really is to make it a habit to go back.
Absolutely. I got a question with that, because when we talked about Peyton Manning, right? Would you say that it's very important that you know yourself? Because the reason why I asked that is because Peyton Manning knew himself enough to know this is in my wheelhouse. But at a certain point, hey Tony Dungy, you know what I'm saying? Like,
how about this? How about just the fact that how many times have you ever seen? You can probably count on one hand the amount of times you've seen Peyton Manning run in his career.
That's exactly. Yeah.
If Peyton Manning tries to,
and the one time he did, that neck got broke.
if Peyton Manning tried to be, I'll use people that were, as far as prime is concerned. If he was trying to be McNair, if he was trying to be McNabb, if he was trying to be Vic, if he was, it doesn't work.
It's over.
Right? So yes, it is important to know yourself and know your limitations. But the good thing about having a great coach and a great trainer is, even though I know my limitations, a great coach and a great trainer is going to put me in position to where, although I can work on the areas that I'm falling short in, he can highlight the areas that I excel in.
So there's an assessment in there. Somewhere along the way, there's an assessment in there. Man, I think that's the number one thing that holds people back is the inability to assess.
Mm-hmm.
Especially self-assess. Like sometimes it's so hard for us to see our own, like you said. Hopefully, we're not doing things in a manner that holds ourselves back.
Right.
And I think the inability to self-assess, and we do this, and it's important. Okay, because I think we got some parameters already set up here. Like we do our debriefs now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And within those debriefs, I ask you, like, hey, is there something I'm doing incorrect? Is there something because I'm always looking for that self-assessment, and I think that's what helps me to stay on the path to follow Jesus, because it's like, okay, what areas do I need to shift in? Because there's always an area that you need to shift in, and the ego will tell you that doesn't exist at all times.
Mm-hmm.
There's something I did today that I can fix. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it's important for us to seek that, and within this cure for quitting, man. Super important. So we got to stay in your lane,
mm-hmm.
right? We got to follow Jesus' lead. Now we must ignore the losers. Ignore the losers. So you told a story about Floyd Mayweather. Can you give us that one? Because I think that set up an important point.
Yeah. So Floyd Mayweather basically said, and
go back and listen to the sermon.
I'm editing and paraphrasing because we know how Floyd can be. But Floyd basically said that the people in the stands, whether they like him or not, paid to watch him fight.
Absolutely.
So then he also said that from the ring, the boos and the cheers sound the same.
Absolutely.
So all he essentially hears is noise. He doesn't differentiate whether it's a boo or a cheer. It's just noise.
Yeah.
And having that type of mentality helps to keep him focused on the task at hand, because he doesn't allow himself to become too complacent or arrogant due to the cheers, and he doesn't allow himself to become too down and defeated due to the boos.
Right.
It's just noise.
Right.
But whether you like me or not, you paid to watch me fight. Whether you came to the fight, whether it's pay-per-view,
absolutely,
whatever it is, you're here.
Yeah.
To watch me.
Yeah.
So he, in his mind, you're paying to watch me do something that you don't have the ability to do.
Absolutely.
And even if you paid to see me lose,
you still paid.
I still won.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And I think with the reason why I said that, because that was one of those stories that tied it all together. Because when you say that, in order to ignore the losers, guess what? You got to stay in your lane. You got to be focused. And in our case, we're focused on Jesus. We're following Jesus, right? And then we're blocking out the noise. You know what's funny, man? You know the NBA is back now, right?
Oh yeah, I know.
The NBA is back now. And I the guy who trained Michael Jordan, Tim Grover, he posted or tweeted, I don't know, I just saw it on the internet somewhere, right? Where he said, don't be surprised if you see a higher level of play without being in the stands, because there's no distractions.
For sure.
There's nobody booing, there's nobody throwing stuff, there's no crazy fans out there for a second. Like, it's none of that.
Right.
So now I'm focused, I'm in my lane, and I'm following the coach's lead to your point, right? And don't be surprised if you see a higher level of play that you've never seen before. And I think when we're doing those three things, when those three things are clicking, there's a high level of performance. Today, perfect example, high level of performance today. I wish I was in here today, y'all. Today was just one of those days, right? Where everything is clicking, everything's going. And to the point of the entire sermon today, there are so many spots within just the last couple months where it's like, all right, man, we could quit right here if we wanted to, and nobody's gonna say nothing because we got all these obstacles going. But we stayed in our lane, follow Jesus' lead. We're ignoring any outside noise that's going on, you know what I'm saying? Because that can play a part. And then that higher level of play comes out, right?
So, I mean, the higher level of play comes out when you're playing to win and not for people.
Okay.
So if your purpose of playing was to get an ooh and an ah, then this is going to be a struggle for you.
Absolutely.
So for example, I've challenged myself to improve on my preaching, although nobody's in the sanctuary, because I've said while people were in the sanctuary that I don't preach for amens.
Right.
Well, now's the perfect time to prove it, because ain't none. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if what you're doing, if your reason for playing is to win and not for people,
right,
then times like this, you'll raise your level. Yeah. But if not, you'll disappear.
Man, that right there is I say this all the time. Like, I go back sometimes and I say, man, I said that was so important like 32 times within that podcast. But it really is, man, because it's so important to know why you're doing it. Right? Like, in our case, of course, we're doing it for the purpose of God's ministry, right? The purpose of bringing people closer to God, right? But even in your everyday life, it's important to know why you're doing something, because that is the cure for quitting. Okay, so like no matter what happens in business, I can't quit because it's not even about me. It's about, for me, it's more about creating something that's generational, that's never been created in my family before. So it's not about me, it's about my kids. So on my worst days, when I get home in the morning from lifting or whatever we're doing, when I hear that, Daddy, you know, but like I'm reminded of why I'm doing it in the first place.
So if you quit, essentially, you're quitting for them before they have a choice.
Quitting for not just for them, for the whole entire, like the entire lineage.
Yeah. But,
you know
what I'm saying is you've quit for them. You didn't even give them a choice.
Oh man, okay. Listen, we done with this podcast. But like you're right though. You're right, and this is something that I've said before. I don't know if I said it on this podcast, but I know I've said it in conversation with you. In my mind, the reason why I can't quit in that aspect is because I'm tired of passing the baton backwards. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of that. It's over for that. Like I want you when you're whatever age that 18 or whatever, I want to pass it forward, right, not backwards. So regardless of what I go through or what we go through, it's not for us. We talked about setting that lineage for our family, right? We want to have certain things set up within our family. We want to have this and that. So that way they don't have to go through the same things. They don't got to go through messing their credit up. I've done that.
I mean, I know one thing that we did talk about before on the podcast. I mentioned that and I can't remember who said it. This is not my quote, but I can't remember who said it, so I can't give them credit for it. But somebody said if the benefits of your goal, if you live to see the benefits of your goal, they weren't big enough. Mm. Yeah. So what you're saying is what you're trying to build something that you ultimately won't even see the completion of.
Absolutely.
At its peak, you'll be dead and gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your job is to, again, stay in your lane. Your job is to lay the foundation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that foundation is laid on focusing on Jesus. If we keep that focused, then we can do all of the rest of it. And then whatever else y'all accomplish, I'm not even going to live to see it, but I'm working so that it can be done.
Yeah. And you know, like just I think it's important for us to kind of step back out of ourselves for a moment, because even with that said, let's scratch the family, right? Scratch the family aspect of that. Even what we're trying to do just here, mm-hmm. This community has already been blessed in many ways just from us being here, mm-hmm. right? On a regular Sunday or Wednesday, if somebody don't got food, it's there. And I'm not saying this to knock no other church, but it's not necessarily happening, right? Mm-hmm. So we understand that it's bigger than us. And that right there, I believe, is like the ultimate cure for not quitting, because it's not even about you in the first place. Right. Like you can't quit because you see what's going on out here.
Right.
You know, you and Pastor Wyatt had a conversation, right? It's bigger than us. Like how you were saying, you don't want to get into politics, but there is an aspect of that, so that way you can change policies for those who are within these communities. It's bigger. Right. So, yeah. Yeah, y'all. Listen, we're gonna have to start charging for the podcast or something, because like these gems, man, it's so important. It's so important. So let's just recap this thing one more time, right? One more time. Stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. We talked about that. With this podcast, y'all have to go back and listen to the sermon, because it'll really
make a lot more sense.
We're talking about the other side, and I don't think I did a good job in the beginning of the podcast, like when we first started it, to creating that difference. Like, is not to regurgitate the things that you already said.
Right.
It's to look at the other side of the things that you said. So we're staying in our lane, y'all. We're following Jesus's lead. These are things that we already know, but it's imperative to keep in the forefront of your mind. Stay in your lane. Follow Jesus' lead. Ignore the losers, because they're going to show up. Man, okay. I read a quote. Right? That said, basically, most people are going to tell you, when they're telling you to quit, when they're telling you to stop, they're telling you the lies that they told themselves, the excuses that they told themselves. So somebody who quit on bringing up a church, right? They're going to tell you, hey, bro, I don't know if you want to do that. You know, it was kind of this, it was kind of that. They're telling you the things that they told themselves to make themselves feel secure. So ignore that. Just simple and plain. Ignore that. You gave a bonus today. Mm-hmm. You gave a bonus today. And this is the marching order for the week, right? We're not going to ask Pastor to do nothing else, right? He got to preserve his voice for Wednesday. Appreciate life.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate life. Can you give us that as your closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, a while back, social media, they'll run with everything and sometimes run it right into the ground. But there was, the common thing on social media was, somebody would say something that was like, but did you die?
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody put you in a compromising situation, but did you die? You know what I mean? Your friend who really can't drive that well, never drives the speed limit, and they looking at you like you crazy because you clenching your seatbelt, and they looking at you, but did you die? You know what I mean? But sometimes I think we have to look at that, as it pertains to life, and just ask ourselves that, like, we could complain about, dang, I had to go through this and this and that, but like, it didn't kill you.
Right.
And now you have that experience, right? Now you have a testimony. Now you have, a new perspective. Right. And it's like, you had to live through it in order to be able to complain about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, when you really look at the grand scheme of things, like, there's always going to be something to complain about.
Yeah.
But is it worth it? Like, did you die? Like, that's the... And I know I've said this at least 7 times on this podcast. The worst thing that can happen is that you die, and you dying could also be the best thing that can happen to you.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, we sound morbid saying that, but
like, and, again, Paul, he's like, yo, the worst thing you can do to me is kill me, and I'm with Jesus. Like, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you just gotta appreciate life, and just really, whatever circumstances and situations you've been in, just realize that it didn't kill you. So now, worst case scenario, you know what not to do.
Absolutely. So check this out. I'm gonna take it just a little bit further on that, right? And after this, just set up my ordination service. So you know what I'm saying? We ready to go. But I would say this: appreciate the life you chose. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. We kind of had conversations on the camera and off the camera about certain things that have happened within this last year of entrepreneurship for me.
Right.
Have you ever heard me complain about it?
No.
I chose the life.
Right.
I chose it. So like, I remember when I first got in the military, like, I hated it at first, but I signed up. Like, I put the uniform. Nobody made me put the uniform on. I put it on. Well,
yes. And I think that probably to broaden that scope just a little bit, because that's pinpoint. You're pinpointing some stuff right now that's very important. But just broaden the scope just a little bit is, before you make a choice, know what you're choosing.
Absolutely.
So when you chose entrepreneurship, you were choosing struggle. You may not have known the extent,
right?
But
right.
You knew you were choosing.
If I knew the extent,
right? But you know what I'm saying. So we pray and ask God for some stuff, and we don't realize what comes along with that.
Yeah.
And so appreciate the life you chose, but before you choose it, know what you're choosing.
Yeah.
Even Jesus himself warns you: if you're gonna follow me, it's my desire that everybody will follow me.
Absolutely.
But everybody won't, because everybody can't handle following me. Because if you're going to follow me, the one thing I can guarantee you is persecution.
Absolutely. And that's painful.
So you gotta know what comes along with what you're choosing.
Absolutely. Listen, y'all, that's the end of the podcast, man. But if you don't get nothing else, appreciate life, appreciate the life that you chose, and just don't quit. Like I think I know there's some promises in the Bible that if you don't quit, things will be added to you, right? So I mean, we ain't even gonna break that down no more. But listen, y'all, next Sunday,
August the 2nd,
4 p.m. Listen, we're gonna have our regular service. You're gonna log in on Facebook, YouTube, and you're gonna see us as usual. But at 4 p.m., we are having a backyard service. Backyardigans, right? We're having a backyard service.
I've been calling it officially. It's called The Gathering.
The Gathering.
But I've been calling it our backyard boogie.
Absolutely. So listen, y'all, we gonna have a service in the backyard because we want to see your face again. We love y'all. Listen, we may not be able to hug y'all, kiss y'all like we normally would do, right? But We are going to have a service in the backyard so everybody can come. Bring your
lawn chairs and masks for sure.
Bring your lawn chairs, bring the mask. We're going to have refreshments. We're going to make sure that everybody's distant.
Yeah, if you got, I mean, hey, look, bring what you want. If you got an umbrella, you got a little canopy you want to bring what you want, man. We just going to have a good time in the Lord,
Absolutely.
man. We really, some of y'all OGs, man, y'all know what it was like at the free concert at the Black Expo. That's what it's going to look like in the backyard at Abundant Faith. So bring whatever you want, but just make sure you bring your worship, make sure you bring your praise, and it's going to be fire.
Absolutely. So listen, y'all, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Once again, we love y'all. Don't forget Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Bible study. Listen, if y'all missing Bible study, you miss. Hold on. You're really missing the meat and the potatoes for the week, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where we really learn and grow. So we need y'all on the live stream. Don't forget Facebook, Abundant Faith Christian Church, right? Follow the page, like the page. YouTube, Abundant Faith Christian. Once again, Abundant Faith Christian Church. If you see another Abundant Faith Christian Church, let us know so we can go ahead and flag that, right? Tune in 7 p.m. on Wednesday for Bible study. We'll be right back here on Sunday at 10 a.m. for regular service. Don't forget to subscribe to Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify. We are exclusively on Spotify. Now, listen, we need you to send the podcast to your friends. Because if you send it to your friends, we can grow the podcast organically, and we can get to Spotify. we gonna get a Spotify. We're gonna be the first church to get a Spotify deal. Well, listen, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Straight from the Pastor's Desk.
God bless.
Can't say nothing today because they are everybody.